welcome on into Courtside. I'm your host, Courtney Webb, and this is a digital series about QVC entrepreneurs. And we have one that has been with us and is most beloved because she brings us some of the beautiful makeup that we love. Miss Laura Geller, welcome on in, Laura.
Oh, hey, everybody. Hi, Courtney. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
We are so happy that you're able to make it here with us. And I just have to dive right in because you have brought us a line of makeup, not only that's high quality, and you've got some iconic things in there like Spackle, which we'll get to. But also you show us how to actually apply it. And so I want to go back to when you learned how to apply makeup and how you became the person that you are today.
Well, thank you for asking. You know, it's a history. I'm doing it a lot of years, so I'm going to keep it tight because I don't want to bore everybody. But I will tell you, I grew up in a suburb outside of New York City. And in the days that I wanted to get into the world of makeup, there was no way of getting into doing makeup unless you went to beauty school. So I attended beauty school, took my test both in New Jersey State and New York State, and got my license, but was frustrated because when you get your cosmetology license, you only really learn hairstyling. And I didn't want to be a hairstylist. I wanted to be a makeup artist. So I tasked the owner of the beauty school because I said, where do you go? Where does one go? I wasn't living in New York City. I was 18, all but 18 years old. And he didn't know himself, but he investigated and sent me to School of Visual Arts in New York City to take a theater and film makeup class, which for those of you who are in drama or took drama as a major, that is a required class. But for me, I just signed up and enrolled in it because it said makeup. And I just thought, I'm going to learn how to put on pretty eyeshadow and pretty blush and lipstick. Yeah, that's not what it was. It was about aging a face and learning how to make blood caps come out and putting like bald caps on. Yes, absolutely. And so, but what I learned from that class, the biggest takeaway was that I learned the art of makeup through science. And what does that mean? We had to learn the anatomy of a face. The last thing I wanted to do when I took that class was start learning about anatomy. But we literally learned about the anatomy of a face, which is why my strength in contour and highlighting, and we called it chiaroscuro, light and dark, really was the framework for my future in makeup in all aspects of my trajectory of what I did in my future. I took that away with me, and I think it really changed the way I approach doing makeup on people for the rest of my life.
Well, and I mean, in that class, you were what? You said 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
When you were learning, but you were learning amongst some of the greatest makeup artists also that were rising at that time, were you not?
You bet I was. It's funny because I don't know, I go back a long way in makeup, but there were names like Fran Cooper and Maria de Schneider. And boy, if they're listening to this, I would love them to say hello to me. They became friends back in the day. I knew because I had been studying online. I had been studying like who's doing makeup and reading the magazines and the credits. And these two particular women were makeup artists to Scavullo. They worked with the likes of, also Way Bandy, another famous makeup artist, Kevin Aucoin. And I was like so intimidated because I thought, am I in the wrong class? These people are so much further ahead of me. But, one thing I had, and I think it was naivete, and I think that gives you guts sometimes. I sat there and I thought, I'm going to act like I know what I'm doing, even if I don't, because, you have to fake it to make it sometimes. And it was the best thing I ever did because the man who taught the class was a famed Hollywood makeup man named Herman Buckman back in the day. And he became a teacher for the art of theater and film makeup. And he was like a grandfather to me. And we just got on and I assisted him in classes and other things. And I found myself doing the business of theater and film early on. But I also knew that's not where I was going to land. It's not what I dreamed of, I should say. I enjoyed it, But ultimately, there were so many different paths I could take, and I kept learning about the different paths, and eventually I found my path.
Well, I think you just kind of tapped on something that sometimes naivety is when you are becoming brave because you're saying, I'm going to try something that I don't even know if I can do, but I'm going to do it anyways. And so I think that's another word for bravery, Laura.
I think so too.
I appreciate that you just shared that.
I always say to people who are, rising entrepreneurs, or people who ask advice from me about this business and how to get into it, I always say, for me, one of the things that kept me going even when it was tough and when I didn't make a cent, a penny. I mean, I did jobs for years without making a dime just to assist the greatest people. But I always say that if you're doing what you love, you don't mind any of that. It may be challenging at times, but you're so happy that you're even immersed in doing something that you're enjoying and learning from, that you're willing to come from the school of hard knocks, really.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That is great takeaway too, especially if someone watching right now is thinking, you know what, I really want to try that. I want to branch out into entrepreneurship, or even just say, I want to learn a little bit more about makeup. I'm sure lots of people are like, I've always wanted to go to cosmetology school. And the fact that you're saying, I walked up and said, hey, can I get in there?
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's funny because, I was always a creative person, and it wasn't till years later I found out that when I was young, my mother sculpted, and she worked with clay, and she made the most beautiful sculptures that we still have in her home. And I didn't ever put two and two together. And I realized that, I really was not a student. I got through, but it wasn't my thing. And so I ran into a classmate. The quick backstory is I ran into a classmate that was a very good friend. Her name was Jane. And she would always say to me, I'm going to beauty school. I want to be a hairstylist. You should come with me. You love makeup. And I used to say, what? You're not going to college? This girl used to help me get through all my exams. I mean, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have graduated. And she was the one who convinced me to go to beauty school. And the owner of the beauty school said something to me that I never forgot. May he rest in peace. He said, you need to take this course. He said, you need to do this. You can always go off to college after, but I think that you will be successful because you have something a lot of other people don't. And I didn't know what I had. I was 18 years old. And I said, what? He said, you have a gift of gab. And if you have a gift of gab, you can take it a lot of places. So everybody who has a gift of gab, use it. Use it. It's not something you can learn in any course.
That's true.
Go with it. It's really true.
That is so true. And so funny. I had a best friend who in high school said, Courtney, you should get into broadcast journalism. And I was like, why? Why would I do that? And then here we are. So,
that's right. And let me tell you, you have that gift of gab as well. And it's really something that we take for granted. But I must tell you, it is definitely something that, a lot of people may not have. I mean, yes, you can work on it, definitely. But like I said, if any of you watching right now have that gift that Courtney has, and I'm not saying I have, but
you do.
So weird to say that. I think I have it where it comes to what I love doing. Because you could put me in a room with a lot of people talking about a lot of other subjects, and I may not have that gift of gab at that time. But if you start talking about makeup, I'll find things to talk about with you.
Well, and speaking of, I'm just going to segue right in. You've actually referred to yourself as a teacher when it comes to makeup. And I completely feel like you are the professor of all professors for makeup. And you were just saying that you had that knowledge to sculpt a woman's face with, bronzers and things before we even contour and highlighting even existed to the extent that it does now. Tell us a little bit about why you consider yourself a teacher and what that means to you about teaching us about makeup.
Well, it's a great question because what happened was the very beauty school that I attended, when the owner of the beauty school found out how far I had gotten with the courses I had taken and what I was immersing myself in and doing, and at that time I wasn't making a living. I just was assisting and doing a little bit of TV and film and theater, assisting people until eventually I started doing it for a living. He asked me to come back as a teacher for the beauty school to bring in makeup to the course. And in order to do that, I had to get license, a vocational school teacher's license.
Oh.
So I actually studied and became a vocational school teacher for beauty school. My name was Miss Laura.
Miss Laura.
Miss Laura. And it wasn't that I taught all the time because my students became my friends. They were all my age.
That's so great.
I'd be like, okay, here's what we have to do. Let's all start exercising because I wanted to like work out in the morning. Not like today, but I did then. And then I'd be like, I think we need to eat. Let's walk over to the diner and we'll have a discussion about the business. And we'd go to the diner. But no, I wound up teaching them real art of cosmetics back then. So I took that skill set with me, and I didn't even realize that teaching became natural to me too.
Oh, and that just actually goes to show why you are the expert that you are. And so when you come on air and you bring us these amazing products, you are literally teaching us, and it's so authentic to you. And that explains why, because it's part of what your gifts are. Definitely.
Thank you.
Now, as far as your first product, when you decided to create your own makeup line, I guess tell me how you even came to creating your own makeup line. And then I want to know what your first product that you ever created was.
So, I had been freelancing all over the city. I had taken an apartment in Midtown Manhattan where women came and I did their makeup. Then I would go off and do weddings on the weekends, and I would still be doing some of the very famous anchor women and men, and working for different TV. I mean, it was a mixture of everything. And what happened was I would finish doing makeup on some people and they'd say, can I buy it? And I'd be like, oh, no, I just put it on you. I'm not selling it. And they'd be like, well, how do I buy it? And I'd be like, I don't know. And so I would contact the makeup manufacturers where I had amassed all these products from. And they'd be like, well, we can't just sell you one for that customer. You're going to have to buy a dozen of this one color. And I started doing a little of that and a little of this. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is turning into a whole nother business. I never planned for that. And so then I rented space in Manhattan and I opened up shop and I started putting a line together. But actually, and that was in 1993 when I opened up my New York makeup studio, which has since closed.
But still so nice.
It was such a great place. We were there for 21 years, and hopefully some of our listeners or people that came to visit me, because I got so many wonderful people coming to visit, both from the UK and from the States. And I would visit with these people. It was so wonderful. But what happened was QVC came into my life, and because of the kind of quantities you have to order for QVC, I was able to do my own R&D and create my own line of cosmetics. And that happened really in the early 2000s.
And now we're in 2020. You have an assortment, a huge breadth of a collection, I must say. And what is your most popular one, would you say, out of all of your products?
Spackle.
So tell us about Spackle. How did Spackle come to be? That was one of the first things when I heard, they were like, Courtney, you're going to be with Laura Geller. I was like, oh, Spackle. It was the first thing. Spackle. I was like, she's iconic for that.
Yeah, and, it's funny because back in the day, had I known that I was one of the first to market, not the first, but one of the first to market with an under makeup primer that would change the whole industry, that every single brand in the world would eventually launch a primer. Had I known I was onto something that was so game-changing, I'm not sure what I could have done, but I would have really, really invested in the idea that I'm really doing something nobody's done, right? So I didn't. But what was happening was there was a famous expression that so many women still use and use then, and they'd be like, oh man, I need some Spackle today, The famous comedy writer Nora Ephron.
Yes.
She I knew her, and she used to always say to me, I need Spackle, and then I was working with a very famous news broadcaster who's still on air today.
Mhm.
And one day I was making her up early in the wee hours of the morning, and she said to me, "Girl, I hope you have some Spackle in that makeup kit of yours because I need." And I was like, I had that aha moment. And
Yep.
what really changed for me was, when I studied theater and film makeup, the first thing you learn when you're putting makeup on for people on television and theater and film, that you never put moisturizer under makeup. That the madder the skin, the longer wearing the makeup will be. And that makes sense because moisturizer is meant to penetrate the skin, right?
Right, right.
So I had this moment where I thought, I'm doing her makeup. I can't use moisturizer. Her skin's dry. I know what she's frustrated about.
Mhm.
What if I can come up with a formula that resurfaces the skin, but hovers on the skin and doesn't penetrate the skin, and almost acts as like a second skin so that everything you put on top of it looks smoother and softer, like a second skin.
Right.
And I went to work with a chemist and came out with Spackle. I said, I'm going to use that name, but I couldn't use the name actually. I had to go to the paint company, Muralo, who owned the
Right.
name Spackle. And I had to convince them to let me use that name for cosmetics. And I was tasked with making sure I protected that name, that nobody in the industry could use that name. And believe it or not, there were a couple other high-profile brands and mass brands that tried to use Spackle in a word, and I had to go after them with an attorney. But
Oh,
so that's how Spackle was born.
wow.
So yeah, and now we're up to I think we're at 9 different formulas of Spackle.
That is incredible. What makes the formulas different, the 9 different kinds?
Yeah. Oh, so I know we had a chart
Oh, to
on
like break it down for us on
to break it
QVC?
down for people, but it's not on QVC. But I'm going
Oh,
to find out, and I will make sure that we get one eventually, either on laurageller.com or maybe even, well, QVC.com we can't do it on because they didn't have all 9 of them.
okay,
But
but we do have a good assortment.
the original is how I launched, and we still have that. And then we
Mhm.
came out with things like bronze spackle that gave you a little tint, then champagne that had a little luminosity, then we had soothing, and we had ethereal and mattifying and hydrating. So you can imagine even tone, that each one, for what your skin type is, you
Mhm.
basically get the same formulation at the base, but then you get the assets of what the additional ingredients are that may help you if you've got a particular need that you want to address.
Oh, and once again, very thoughtful because you're thinking about the customer and how much we need certain things that are in a variety of different ways.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the customer, what made you just fall in love with the QVC customer? Because I know that you adore our viewers and those who shop your brand, and you just ooze the love you have for QVC. Tell us a little bit about what it means to be on QVC.
Well, for me, I had for 21 years had a studio where I taught makeup lessons, and early in my career too. And one of the biggest things, and that's how I landed in this area of makeup artistry, is one of the biggest highs I got that fulfilled me, that filled my soul, was working on real people. I mean, now men and women, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that they would come in and say, I need to learn this. I want to do this myself. And I always had an audience of just one, or maybe the client would come with her sister or her mother or a couple friends. And when I was given the opportunity to speak to 100 million households and
Yep.
take that, it's like taking your show on the road and speaking to a wider breadth of women. And when I was given that platform, I was like, this is a dream come true.
Mm.
This is where I needed to be because I want to share what I've learned and amassed over all the years. And so my clients, whether they were my clients from before, whether they're the clients that shop my brand on QVC, however they come to me, are an extension of my soul, my heart. I consider them my friends and family. I'm not even kidding. They fuel me as much as I fuel them. I need them as much as they sometimes say they need me, that I help them to forget certain things in their life they don't want to think about, or at a bad time I lift their spirits, or they finally are doing makeup and they had never done it before and they're first getting into it in their later in life. Those are
Right.
the kinds of things I hear.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, you just brought also so many of us this brand that you have poured your heart into, but you've extended it. I saw that you did something with Beauty to the Streets, and you are bringing this wonderful creation that you've created of makeup and beauty, and you've taken it to those who were homeless. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we care so much at Laura Geller, and we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that very often we don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And through the years and raising money for cancer research, and I got a grant in my name for lung cancer research, and just so many different things. And you'll see things coming through eventually too that we're working on. But Beauty to the Streets is a campaign we did last year. Was it? Yes.
Yeah.
And Shirley Gaines is the woman who heads up Beauty to the Streets. You should, look her up because what she does is incredible. Yeah. And she basically works with the homeless on Skid Row in Los Angeles.
Right.
And we know what an epidemic everywhere homelessness is, and how very often we pass people on the streets and we don't think of them as human beings. And let's face it, they are, and they all had a life at some point that was worthy of them being noticed today. Mm-hmm. And why? What happened to them? And so Shirley, along with our team in New York, and a crew that we brought to Los Angeles of makeup artists and hairstylists and nail technicians, spent a weekend, and Shirley picked out about 9 women that are people that she's been very close to in her life, amongst so many others, but she had to sort of pick the group. And these are people that are so sensational. Their stories are so unbelievable. And we have pictures on our site of the makeovers. Mm-hmm. In fact, we'll post them again so that everybody can see, or maybe somehow we can link them to you. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
We spent the day and weekend, and these people cried. We cried. And it really was an education for me. I had never done anything like that. And we want to continue to help where we can. We donated, we got Colgate to donate toothbrushes and toothpaste in our efforts. And all of these women said, thank you for making me feel special today and grooming me and photographing me. It was pretty special.
I was going to say, I can just imagine how they felt. One, to be chosen, to get all dolled up and have people take the time to say, I want to help you. I want to make you beautiful in the sense that you feel. Because I know sometimes as a woman personally, I don't feel beautiful. You kind of have those days where you just feel a little not like yourself. And it's not always about makeup. It's not always about that. It's about an inner beauty.
That's true.
And I think that you open up that discussion for us to say it's not just about makeup. Makeup's just an enhancement of what you already have, but there's something more. Yeah.
By the way, I hope I said Shirley Raines, Raines, and it's Beauty, the number 2, the Streets, but with a Z at the end. So Beauty to the Streets. But I just want to make sure I got that right. Thank you for saying that. I have to tell you, one of the reasons why I went into the business of beauty was I was infatuated with watching certain women who lived on my block, some of the other mothers that were real sort of, back in the day, I considered them the real makeup fashionistas. They were they put on a full face every day. And my mom was a real simple woman. She wore a bright lipstick. She wore some pancake makeup, a little eyebrow, but she certainly wasn't somebody who, we would consider a fashionista or a makeup junkie or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I was so fascinated by certain women who I grew up with that I saw how it transformed them. And I just, starting at 13 years old, I knew that I could transform and make myself feel better. Not that I was wearing it, but I knew the power of it. And that's why I went into the business to begin with.
Oh, well, it's a true testament because I definitely, when I put on a little bit, even just a little spackle or a little bit of your bronzer, a highlighter, I just feel like I did something for myself that I'm able to represent. And I can say, look, I'm showing up for the day.
That's it. No, it's really true. I mean, listen, there are days, I don't have to work or I don't have to be on a Skype call or a Zoom call or FaceTime. And I may not wear anything if I'm staying in my house.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you the days that I have to do it, the days that I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to see people today. I feel like a different person. It makes you feel better. And sometimes when you feel better on the outside, you feel better on the inside. A lot of people say you got to feel good on the inside to look good on the outside. It's also the other way it works.
Right. It is. Either way that makes you feel good. You do that. It could be different every day if you're like me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not about wearing a lot. It's about what does it take for you that makes you feel like, oh, okay, I can face the world again, or the doorbell's going to ring and someone's going to come that you didn't expect, or, all of a sudden, what do I need to do to just immediately feel like I look okay and I'm appropriate to meet that challenge?
Oh, for sure. So speaking of, giving us a little teaching moment, what is your number one pro tip that you would share with us about makeup or beauty or something for us to kind of keep in our arsenal?
Yeah, I'm going to share the tip that I learned from theater and film makeup. So a lot of women, a lot of people will approach makeup as, like I said, like, oh, let's put on this pretty colored eyeshadow, or let's put on this pretty colored blush and these pretty colored lipsticks. And while all of that is fun and is the fun in makeup, what every single person should be thinking about who's going to apply makeup to their face is, okay, I'm looking at my eyes right now. What do I need to do to make my eyes look bigger and more framed?
Oh.
That's the first thing you have to think about. So I always say the 3 E's. And eyeliner is going to shape the eyes. A lot of people, their eyes don't pop until you put a little liner on. And then I'll say the other E is eyebrow. If you don't have a full brow, if you have a scanty brow, if maybe you shaved, over plucked, you weren't born with one, fill it in a little bit. I certainly don't have a full brow, but boy, when I put that on, I'm like, okay, now I know who I am. That's the second E. And the third E for me is eyelashes, because eyelashes, putting mascara on, is what opens the eye. So you frame the eye with your eyeliner, you open it with the mascara, and the brow frames the whole thing together. So that's like eyes, right? And then the next is blush. I see so many women putting blush on, and I'll watch them, and they're like, and I'm like, what's with the tip of the nose and the front of the forehead and chin? So blush, when you're putting it on, use it as an anchor to frame out your cheekbones. Consider, like, how do I make my cheekbones look higher and more defined? And you put your blush on, the cheekbone is where it belongs, right? So that's the second thing. You're thinking about framing out the features on your face. And same for lip. So if you can use a lip liner, all the better, because as we get older, our lip line softens and our lips get thinner. So if you take a pencil and just frame the outside of your lip and then go to put a little lipstick on, or even use the pencil to fill it in completely, people will look at the shape of your mouth. They'll look at the shape of your cheek, the shape of your eye. That's how you need to apply makeup. Then the rest of it is fun, like what color,
Right. The additives, the accents.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are helpful. I have to tell you, I used one of those hair removal creams when I was in middle school, and I took my eyebrows off. I learned really quick the power of an eyebrow after that.
Oh my gosh. And you were lucky you were young, because it probably did come in completely then.
I'm pretty sparse up there, Laura, I'll be honest.
Gotta take a look at that brow the next time I see you.
I might have to have some tutorials, because the one thing was I had to find out that I needed your waterproof eyebrow back then, because
Yeah.
back then there wasn't an waterproof version. And my eyebrows were running down my face during a lacrosse tournament because I was sweating and it started raining.
And God bless you for putting eyebrows on during a lacrosse tournament. See, like, I'm not sure I would have even done that.
Oh, I was just so embarrassed that I had eyebrows one day and the next day they were just all gone.
Okay. Well, that was when they were all gone. Now I get it. Okay.
Yeah, this one they were all gone. I had nothing there, and it wasn't a look for me, I'll be honest.
You know what? I have to tell you, I through the years, I've seen so many of those little oopses because women, shaved their brow, then penciled it in, or somebody waxed and did a line right through the eyebrow. Please, I was an eyebrow waxer for a lot of years. I mean,
so you know the shape then.
That's one of my favorite things. I love doing eyebrows, and I was so quick at them, and I did the best shapes. But I always had the biggest fear that, like, if the wax by accident, just like a string of wax, would get somewhere else on the brow, and then I pulled it, I'd be like, don't let it happen. So I think I made out pretty okay. I might have had one or two little oopses, but I'm not going to mention those. Mm-hmm.
Right. Learnings.
Yeah.
Well, tell us how we can support and follow you. I mean, obviously we can go to qvc.com. We can shop the Laura Geller line. You have so many products there, which is fantastic. But tell us how we can support and follow your journey.
So go to Laura Geller Beauty on Instagram and Facebook. I have my own Instagram page, Laura J. Geller. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to follow me there. I'm not as good at posting as my team does at the office on our fan page. But I do love having my followers on. I'm trying to amass more followers. So right now, I'm not doing Snapchat. I'm not doing, I also am on Twitter too. Let me tell you what my Twitter is. But I don't do much on Twitter either. I'm not on TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm at the Laura Geller on Twitter. But I'm doing a lot more with Instagram nowadays. And I do have a live chat every Friday at 1 p.m. on Facebook. We were going back and forth between Instagram and Facebook, and I found my comfort level was on Facebook.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely be able to go and follow you. Is there anything else you want to share with those who are watching right now about your journey or inspiration or anything like that?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would leave off with is if you're watching and you've been a Geller gal, we call them Geller gals, I want to thank you for your loyalty and let you know that the reason why I'm still doing what I'm doing is because of your loyalty. And it's because of you who fuels me and helps me come up with new products and product development because I see what you ask for and what you need. So thank you for that. And if you're new with me, I welcome you and hope that you'll be part of the Laura Geller family also. And my final thing is to say that, Courtney, you need a talk show. You are such a great interviewer, and you really just get to the heart of things. And I'm grateful to you for picking me to do this today because we don't often get a chance to tell our backstory, right? So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and I'm sure those who are watching are like, thank you for having Laura.
Oh, no,
a lot of people
so
were excited about you coming on.
Oh, I'm so blessed to hear that. I really am. And maybe down the road, I'll be sitting on a couch with you, and you'll be behind a desk and have your own late night talk show.
Oh, QVC late night
talk show. Huh?
I said QVC late nights.
Right? We can develop a little thing like that on QVC. Yeah. Why not?
Why not? Anything's possible at this point.
Anything. Thank you for asking me such really great questions that really got to the heart of my story.
Well, thank you for sharing it and being open with us and just being able to inspire us with your journey too. I loved hearing it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, honey.
All right. Well, we'll see you later. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.